How is it?
It's kind of decent. I think it's okay. I don't know.
Yeah. Man, red wine is my favorite thing to drink.
Yeah, especially for here, it's like you don't want to carry 6 beers just to get drunk. It's just concentrated.
Yeah. This way, 10 years from now, I'll still be making videos and we'll be talking that way about whiskey. I love whiskey.
It's so concentrated.
You don't have to carry very much of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, I feel sort of like drinking is kind of disrespectful of the outdoors in a way, but...
No, you know what? You know what's disrespectful is like coming out here and singing a guitar and making lots of noise and flashing everybody with flashlights and all that shit. I have no issue with like having a drink in the wilderness or the outdoors.
Yeah.
I mean, those idiots screaming right now, that's disrespectful. Not us being quiet and enjoying a drink.
True that. Yeah. But we were talking a few minutes ago about like, I'm thinking a lot about goals, I guess. So I just made my 100th video. Woohoo. Now my life is complete.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've been thinking about like, okay, what do I want to do with my channel next year? And the fishing and stuff is part of it for sure. Expansion of skills. Like I want to get better at knots, for example. If you just watch Dave Canterbury, his channel, like that guy's really good with knots, right? Like he's got a confidence at this point because he's done it 1,000 times. He just kind of goes out there and he's able to like improvise things because he's got skills to build upon, right? I don't know if Cody is that way with like knots or whatever. I mean, I guess we can start to think of them separately because they have no relationship anymore.
That's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, but
yeah. Point to be made. Dual survival lost out a lot when Dave Canterbury left the show, or was asked to leave the show, I guess. I thought that the duet, like their interaction, was very successful, and Dave definitely has a lot to offer. And as a matter of fact, when the new guy came in, he's a carbon copy of Dave Canterbury, the new Joe Tatai, which I like him too. Like, I mean, I enjoy watching season 3, but the point being is they choose the nearest thing to Dave to replace him, and that just shows how important his sort of type of character had in the show.
Yeah. Well, the show would not be what it is today. Like, it wouldn't even be a show without Dave.
Yeah.
Because if that initial quality hadn't been there, it never would have gotten this far.
Yeah, and the type of interaction too was reproduced in version 3 or season 3. Again, by having a very similar character to Dave.
Yeah. It's I started making reviews of Dual Survival, and that got kind of old pretty fast. I did one review, and I was like, and I think it was good. Like I put some thought into it, but
I think though from all the episodes you could have reviewed, you probably reviewed the best one because I think I found it's the only episode I watched 3 times. First of all, second of all, it's the episode that set up the relationship between the two guys that then continued all the way through. So I thought it was the best of the best.
Yeah.
To review. So.
Yeah, but I do think that if I was to, sort of lay out a framework and watch each episode and expect to see certain things like patterns, I think certain patterns would become very evident over time. Like there's always a conflict, right? Like they always have issues about something. They have conflicts with each other in general because it's like, oh, Cody has the bare feet and Dave is too aggressive or something like that. But then within the framework of that, it's like Cody's feet are getting cut up maybe or something, so it's like, okay, that's a big problem. Or it's more of a problem because they're walking in the swamp or something and something could bite him. And then Dave, it's like he wants to go out hunting at night with a torch or something. So it's like a magnification on micro issues.
Yeah.
The conflict gets bigger, and then they always settle the conflict once somebody brings back food, and they can eat around a fire, and suddenly everybody forgives each other kind of deal. And then they always get out in the exact same time period. So I do think that the location is very carefully chosen in order to take them pretty much far away enough that it looks real, but close enough that they can affect self-rescue, as they call it. And it's also like they get to a beach or something, and then it's like, oh, you know, they're there for a while, and then suddenly a plane flies by or a boat drives by or something like that. It's like, wow, that's convenient, you know.
There's definitely some level of choreography behind the scenes, and if you think about if you think about us now making videos, it sort of makes sense that there is a storyline and some form of organization behind the episodes.
The less you plan, the shittier the overall quality of the production is, right? Like I plan my videos sometimes. Well, I always put some degree of planning into them, but the less thought you put into it ahead of time, the crappier the overall product is going to be. There's no doubt about that.
I think you have to be like rock stars, where you plan the big thing, but you leave the small things to chance and opportunity, and then they look spontaneous. Like this just happened. It wasn't staged.
No.
The wood fire just collapsed on its own.
Yeah. So I'm pretty happy that you got the Byrd Cara Cara too, man. Like that's a knife that I felt very strongly about for a long time. It's funny, like I bought a whole bunch of like high value knives that would probably fall into that category. For example, the Kershaw Cryo, like that's a knife that's probably way more popular than that knife, despite the fact that it's also made in China. And it costs twice as much as that. In my Cryo, I didn't care for the ergonomics of it. Like it's short, it's stubby, it's heavy, and it broke, you know? The assisted thing broke. Like that guy is like, it looks cheap, it might not look as cool, but the ergonomics are really underrated.
Yes?
Yeah.
No, it's actually, I mean, first of all, Byrd Cara Cara, so you guys know what we're talking about. It's a very, very close copy of the Endura. Sorry, yeah, Endura, right?
Yep.
Not the Delica. Endura 4. So, obviously Endura 4 is a great knife, very successful. This is very close to it. The only difference that could be detrimental is maybe the steel's a bit softer, which is not necessarily a bad thing if you like to sort of sharpen things and strop. The spider hole, instead of being a circle, is this sort of bird eye shape, which loses just a little bit in terms of ergonomics, but not too much. And on the Plus, it has a choil, which the Endura does not, which is surprising. But other than that, it's a very affordable knife to buy, and for the price, it's just, you can buy at least 3 of these knives for the price of one Endura. And the only difference is VG10 versus CR13 MOV steel, which is not a bad steel because Tenacious uses it rather successfully.
Yeah. I don't know. I would like to try some sort of very objective test of AUS 8 versus 8CR13 MOV and see what really happens in terms of edge retention. Like if everything being equal, which one performs better, kind of thing. Because I've been very happy with the AUS 8 that I got from Cold Steel. The Voyager, the Recon.
It's also, I really think it needs to be pointed out in terms of, just to be honest, is that myself, and I suspect 95% of knife users, do not use their knives enough to actually perceive a difference in the knives, in the blade steel. Is sure, if you do a scientific test, you can actually come to sort of understand those, but to me, it's like I cannot perceive the difference that much when I actually just use a knife, because it gets used so seldom. If you actually happen to be working, in the industry or something where you require continuously cutting tools, and you actually end up using your knives, you might actually see the difference. Maybe your Cara Cara will get dull in one day, and an S30V knife will last for like the whole week.
Yeah.
In that case, you can sort of appreciate the difference. But for me, I don't see the difference in knife steels that much. I can see it in sharpening, but it's like, who cares?
Yeah. Well, one thing's for sure, it will come out over the long term of usage, right? Like if it's just day to day, you throw your knife in a drawer, it's like, oh, whatever. Like you really need to use it a lot, high frequency, short period of time, right?
And what actually makes that hard is because if you have 20 knives, you have to be very disciplined to use one knife for a given period of time, and then get into another one. I think most people would just randomly choose knives based on their desire that day, and they kind of go with it.
Yeah. Well, one thing's for sure though, like S30V, VG10, HCR13, whatever, like they lose the shaving sharpness fast, no matter what it is. You know.
Yeah.
Perhaps the paper cutting, like there's all these degrees of sharpness, right? But that shaving sharp, it doesn't matter what steel it is. I lose that fairly quickly.
And actually, that makes me question. It's like, why would I want
what's the
shaving
point?
sharp? I lose it so fast when I use it. One and two, the only thing it's good for is actually to cut me very well. Because shaving sharp cuts you really fast. While something that's slightly duller might actually be more forgiving.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, you cut a cardboard once, it's gone.
Yep.
And then you have a lot more of the paper cutting quality.
But I think that for a lot of people, sharpening is kind of a challenge in a way. It's like, how sharp can you really get it?
Yeah.
And
Well, that's why you have a system that costs $200 for sharpening.
how much is that? What the hell is it called? The
I think there's two, Apex Pro. There's a few systems that are very similar to like what the Landscape system does, meaning you fix the blade up and then you use the stones on the blade at a specific setup angle. And there's a few of them, but they're all pretty $200, $300. And it's something I think you get in, you buy it at a certain point in your knife collection ability. You don't buy one knife and then buy a $300 knife sharpening system.
yeah, like you would need the sharpener to be like a small percentage cost compared to the cost of the overall collection. Like if you have $3,000 worth of knives,
Yeah.
paying 10% more to maintain those knives isn't so crazy anymore, right?
Yeah, and some of them look beautiful. Like if you look at the bevel, it's like mirror polished. I can see why that's beautiful,
Yeah.
But I think for my case, possibly yours too, is convexing the micro bevel. Could be like a low-key solution to that problem, because you can get like mirror polished and very sharp edges by convexing on increasingly higher levels of sandpaper and then stropping it.
Yeah.
So it's very forgiving and it's very high level accomplishment.
Yeah, I have to be honest, like the strop and the sandpaper, like that you gave me last year, they kind of sat in a box for the winter anyways. I didn't take them to Mexico with me. I was pretty happy with the Sharpmaker for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can get shaving sharp from that, right? Like no questions asked. So at the end of the day, if you have to choose one thing, choose that. If you don't want to think about it too much. But then eventually I got out the strop and the polish, and I added that on to the end of the Sharpmaker thing, and I found that I was able to get a slight, maybe 5%, 2% sharper with that. And then just recently, I think it was after I saw the Virtual Vice that I got out the sandpaper, and I was like, oh, you know what? I'll give it a try. And I did it on the Byrd Cara Cara too, actually.
Yeah.
And after maybe like 20 minutes or however long it took me to do the whole process, it's like I looked at that like this the primary bevel or whatever, and it's like all like shiny and like very nice. And I was just like, wow, I'm pretty happy with that,
Yeah.
But you got to spend, like, I was reading that only the really aggressive sandpaper actually sharpens it. The rest of it kind of just polishes more or less, or kind of refines it or something. So it's like if you don't spend enough time on that really aggressive sandpaper, like anything you do after that, it'll look good, but it won't be any sharp,
Yeah. Yeah, it's possible.